What's up, guys? This is Daniel from I Am Vanguard, and I'm here to bring you guys a comparison of the three Link Joker units that we have here. Now, before we get started, I know I said that we'll bring you guys a match of the new Link Jokers. It's coming, expected around this weekend. So yeah, look forward to that. So I'm assuming that a lot of people watching this video pretty much know all their skills, so I'm not really gonna go over each of them. Uh, but I'm pretty sure you guys can probably tell that there's a huge difference in playstyle between these two. Uh, Nebula Lord, with his limit break, it's all about timing his skill. Uh, what he does is that he waits for the opponent to have that opening for him to have that big push with the three big columns with his skill. For Chaos Breaker, though, as I said in the deck profile a while ago, he's all about card advantage and controlling your opponent's field by locking them, retiring their units, and gaining a card for it. But what I can say for sure is that Infinite Zero Dragon, the Break Ride, is probably the backbone of this clan. There probably is no denying that he should be ran at 4 in any given Link Joker deck, unless your Link Joker deck is inherently weird in some way, shape, or form. But not only does he provide you free lock for riding, 2 at that, front row and back row. Vanguard is 10,000, which is standard, but what you can do is you can also keep riding the copy of himself over and over to control your opponent, to control your opponent's field. So, really, he's the heart of any Link Joker deck. Speaking of which, you guys can also probably tell that Nebula Lord relies a lot more on Infinite Zero than Chaos Breaker, which is why I say that Chaos Breaker, just the cards themselves, Chaos Breaker is a better card than Nebula Lord Dragon, because Nebula Lord relies a lot on the Break Ride for him to be truly effective, whereas Chaos Breaker can go without the Break Ride. With Break Ride it helps because you get free locks, and then that's even more of his limit break to go off. But for Nebula Lord, if you're not able to get the Break Ride off, he has about 2 to 3 turn of window to create as much card advantage as possible through locking, to really be able to outpace your opponent in terms of damage and resources. Not to say that Nebula Lord is a bad card, but as I said earlier, Nebula Lord is all about timing, whereas Chaos Breaker is pretty much flexible enough that he's not as reliant on timing and Break Ride as Nebula Lord is, because he can just slowly kill your opponents by just lightly jabbing them, and then creating your own advantage through his skill. Now, I guess I could leave the comparison at that and end it there, but I'll also go over some cards that support these two as well. The main grade 2 difference for these two would be, at least for me, would be Gravitational Shooter for Nebula Lord and Colony Maker for Chaos Breaker. You could run Colony Maker and Nebula Lord, but the problem with that is that the Nebula Lord deck eats up so much counterblast with his second skill alone that Colony Maker probably will not come in as useful as many people think. Even though she is only counterblast 1, for Nebula Lord Dragon deck, there's not many reliable way of blocking. And Link Joker is all about blocking to gain card advantage by wasting less shield, right? But if Nebula Lord costs 2 counterblasts just for his skill alone, then you're not going to be able to activate her skill that often. But that's just my personal opinion, which is why I would personally run Gravitational Singularity for Nebula Lord, because as you guys know that through his limit break, all front rows gain power, and through that limit break, she can be 11k or 14k attacker, so with 7k booster, she can hit for 21 or 24k, and she provides free lock for you just for hitting. And she pretty much creates an excuse for your opponent to waste more shield. Which is why I can also justify that, stands are viable for Nebula Lord, because there's actually a threatening unit on the field that you can't afford for it to go off. But for Chaos Breaker, I can't really recommend stands because, I don't know, I personally don't like stands that much, because this game really is all about critting your damage to 6 damage. But stand, if you really want to run stands, then I say stands are more viable for a Nebula Lord Dragon build. And I've seen some people run more draws than necessary. Like, I've seen a deck that topped in Japan which ran 8 draws. Yeah, for Chaos Breaker build. But you guys can probably tell that that's pretty much redundant, since Chaos Breaker alone already gives you a lot of card advantage by himself. So there's that. And also to note that, as you guys noticed, the locking skill, at least independent locking, is pretty much given to only the Vanguards of the Link Joker. There's no grade 2 or grade 1, like any unit in Link Joker that can independently lock something in the rearguard circle. They all require some kind of prior lock for their effects to go off. So I think Bushido did a good job on that, because just by limiting the locking skill to the Vanguards alone, we're limited to what we should run, and it's not like we'll be able to keep locking the opponent's field down. I mean, this guy already creates enough trouble as it is. So yeah, but also for Colony Maker, the main purpose for her in Chaos Breaker's build is to be able to replace the booster that I lost, more specifically Palladium, because Palladium puts himself into the soul to lock your opponent's front any unit, so it'll be front row unit. But by doing that, I'm losing a booster, and she helps mitigate that by calling another Palladium or Lanthanum. So that's why she is just amazing in this build, because with the Chaos Breaker and Colony Maker, there's not much of a counterblast issue as the Nebula Lord Dragon did. Because Nebula Lord Dragon, although his limit break is really good, his second skill is way too costly, and not only that, it's only for back row. So whereas Chaos Breaker, just for counterblast 1 and discarding something, you can lock any unit on the field. So, but for grade 1 options for Nebula Lord Dragon, the one who opens the black door is also a good choice, because she... Oh, and also these two are not star-vader, which is why they should not be running Chaos Breaker builds, because Chaos Breaker requires all star-vader cost for his skills, like Soul Blast star-vader, Counterblast star-vader, Discard star-vader. So by running this in Chaos Breaker build, you're not going to be able to... You're going to find yourself kind of inflexible in terms of using his skill sometimes. But it's definitely... These two are definitely viable options for Nebula Lord Dragon, because it's not like Nebula Lord's Counterblast is a special Counterblast, but Gravitational Shooter provides you with more options for locking, and this one allows you to cycle through your hands if your hand is awkward. Now for the final card that I want to talk about is Dusttail Unicorn. Now I'm pretty sure you guys know from all my deck profiles and matches that, Dusttail Unicorn is the best starter for Link Joker decks. Unless you're running, the right chain short shell, but that's a different story because he's a right chain. But even in the right chain, some people run Dusttail Unicorn as an extra grade 0 because he's just that good. Just for Counterblast 1, he can lock your opponent, any of your opponent's unit, if you have a prior lock, right? So what that means for any deck, any Link Joker deck, is that you can have a leisure when it comes to using your skill, because it is an active ability. So if you want to, save up on more shielding, but you're not able to do so by locking someone's front row, then you can use him instead of Nebula Lord's skill to lock the front row instead of locking the back row with his skill. I mean, I've seen some people run Selenium or the Grade 3 Searcher, but in all honesty, I mean, why run them when we have this? I mean, by running 4 of each of Break Ride and the boss units, you're already pretty much guaranteed to have a Grade 3. There really shouldn't be that much of a riding issue. And it's not like running the Grade 3 Searcher should be... it's not like running Grade 3 Searcher increases your chance of getting a Grade 3 that much. Unless your deck doesn't have an option for a better Searcher, then Dusttail Unicorn really should be the starter that any Link Joker deck should be going for, because he is just good. But to close this comparison off, I can definitely say that Chaos Breaker is strictly a better card than Nebula Lord, but as I said, their playstyle is very different. Also, which is why I can say that these two shouldn't be mixed. That's my opinion. I've seen some people run these two with the Break Ride in the same deck, but personally, Nebula Lord Dragon just works by itself. His second skill is costly, and I mean, why run him when you have Chaos Breaker to do a more reliable locking? If people wanted to have a more power play, then Lanthanum and Niobium already does all that by making 21k, 23k columns in the rearguard column. And having a line of 21k or more is pretty much guaranteed to force out some kind of a perfect guard or a lot of shielding from your opponent. So, I mean, I can't really find much justification in people running Nebula Lord in the same deck as Chaos Breaker. But that is my opinion. I personally wouldn't go for it, but people can try. But Nebula Lord is all about timing and skill, while Chaos Breaker is all about gaining card advantage slowly during the game. So yeah guys, that was the comparison for the Link Joker unit. The match will definitely be coming soon, and I'll see you guys later. Image your victory. I am Vanguard.